U.S. stock futures have tumbled. Some of you are feeling the pain like a knife in the belly.
Donald Trump, long before he became a politician or president, had a few core convictions. He's famous for having a very flexible ideology.
Flexible? Simone Biles wishes she were that flexible.
But he does believe on certain things about trade and certain things about tariffs, dating back from the 1980s when he was a New York businessman.
Pardon my French, but you're an asshole.
He also has deemed himself Tariff Man.
China has announced retaliation against Trump's policies.
This is an unbelievably consequential policy. I mean, I listened to the guests in your interview just now. You know, markets are moving tremendously. I mean, this is a really, really consequential policy for the world, for the country, for everyone.
China's reciprocal tariffs went into effect on Wednesday. That move upended the global economic scene terribly, and not just a little bit. Aaron, please help us figure some of this out.
They put this equation out that looks like it could have come from Einstein. And, you know, this complicated equation, we'll throw it up. I mean, you know, this is the sort of stuff you don't know you would see in econometrics or something like that. But it's a very fancy looking equation. It essentially boils down to you're going to take the difference between the exports and imports of a country, right? And you're going to calculate your tariffs based off of that. That's the essential thing. And then just your bottom line on this formula, is it good or no?
Yeah, so the formula is definitely not good. You know, that was the point I was making, is even the derivation of the formula, no matter what they do with it, I think it is not good trade policy. But they went further. You know, you do still have to plug some numbers into it.
So let's do that. Okay, because I said, hold on, while you're
Sure.
talking here, I said I had my sheet, so I put it on a whiteboard, as you and I discussed I might try to do, just to try to make sense of it, okay?
This tit for tat is going to crush the economies between China and the United States. But for those of us that are indeed confused, don't worry about it. Erin Burnett's going to break it down with her whiteboard.
You're going to take the difference between the exports and imports of a country, right? And you're going to calculate your tariffs based off of that. That's the essential thing. And then just your bottom line on this formula, is it good or no?
Aaron, it doesn't even make sense on your damn whiteboard.
And yet the whole methodology explaining how they did this is, you know, a couple pages long, and I can't answer that question. I've had colleagues saying, what is that 0.25 number? And, you know, for instance, I don't even know.
And that guy, a professor of economics at the University of Chicago. You know, the university, even he doesn't get it. So what do most people around the world think of Trump's draconian policies?
God damn it!
Trump's reciprocal tariffs are the largest in a century. Massive across-the-board import taxes, some as high as 50% on some nations.
He believed the tariffs are important and helpful to grow an American economy. Understanding there might be some short-term pain, but he thinks that the good will outweigh the bad. And what we're seeing here is the president has time and time again suggested that, first of all, that trade wars, as he put it, are good and easy to win.
Well, I think you should be sorry, for Christ's sake.
That's all Trump knows, and that's all he's ever going to do.
Pardon my French, but you're an asshole.
Tiger doesn't change his spots, and apparently Trump never changes the color of his face. As David Farragut famously said, damn the torpedoes. I don't know if Wall Street gets it, but it seems like they have a secret set of signals to get through the day. Okay, Aaron, let's give this another try.
So this is where we are. All right, we took Japan, because Trump's been talking a lot about Japan, Brent. You went through Japan. So he got a 46% tariff. That day when he stood up there, 46% came up. So I've got the numbers here, the difference between the exports and imports. I filled in all the numbers. There's one number here, though, I'm going to put in red. That is 0.25.
And this applies to all aspects of foreign policy, but particularly in economic foreign policy and trade, that the world is a zero-sum game. Like, if they're winning, we're losing. He doesn't really understand that countries can sort of grow together, the market can grow together, or at least he doesn't voice that opinion.
A zero-sum game is when nobody's going to give. It's a big game of chicken and nobody wins.
Right, so, you know, if you change a number in the denominator, the bottom part of the fraction, by a factor of 4, you're going to reduce the equation, the left-hand side, the tariff, by a factor of 4. So specifically, you know, when Trump held up that sign and it had a 46 for Japan, you know, if you instead used 0.95, which is what I think my research motivates, you know, you'd get a number like 12%, much, much lower than 46%. And it doesn't even have to be that extreme. If you picked a number like 3, you'd still go down to 15%, you know. I mean, I listened to the guests in your interview just now. You know, markets are moving tremendously. I mean, this is a really, really consequential policy for the world, for the country, for everyone. And yet the whole methodology explaining how they did this is, you know, a couple pages long, and I can't answer that question. I have colleagues saying, what is that 0.25 number? And, you know, for instance, I don't even know.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you know, you talk about literally you could have things like war and peace depending on it. I mean, you go from 46 to 12 and do Trump's math and take half, you'd be looking at 6% instead of 24. I mean, it is just absolutely stunning to think about that. And I think so important that you say all of that, a lot of it could come down to this one number, your number, that's just who knows where the heck it came from.
I'm not going to sit on my ass as the events that affect me unfold to determine the course of my life. I'm going to take a stand.
He believed that tariffs are important and helpful to grow an American economy.
I'm not going to sit on my ass as the events that affect me unfold to determine the course of my life. I'm going to take a stand.
He feels that tariffs are a key way, punitive tariffs, to punish another economy, another country's economy, and to grow the United States' own economy. And argues that, like tariffs, well, in best case scenario, things be manufactured at home, so therefore you wouldn't have to worry about it. And sure, there's an argument to be made that some tariffs could lead to productivity at home, but there are certain things that just America doesn't make anymore, and other countries do, and do a lot cheaper. So this is going to be passed on to the consumers, and politically, that's dangerous for the president, because a lot of these people who could be adversely affected, whether because they're just buying goods at the store, or let's say China hits back in certain industries and commodities like soybeans in the Midwest, those are the very voters, those heartland voters who supported Donald Trump in 2016, and he needs again in 2020.
Here we go. Now let's get down to how it's going to affect you and me. You're going to get kicked in the proverbial stones.
When it comes to groceries, economists project that if consumers are made to absorb the entirety of the 20% import tariffs on Europe, things like this, olive oil from Italy, $20 now, it'll be up to $24. And something else that folks are really not going to like, alcohol could also rise by that 20% as well. But not just imported alcohol from Europe, but also domestically produced alcohol because of the tariffs on aluminum and on glass.
He does not always seem to understand, at least publicly, how they work. And seems to, if not understand, at least doesn't want to discuss the impact it will have on the American consumers. How your average American will go to a store and now have to pay more for goods because of these tariffs, because the ones that China has put on American goods. And obviously a lot of things Americans buy are made overseas.
The folks here at the Sabzi market say that meat, poultry, eggs, dairy, they're likely not going to change much. Also, take a look at this produce display here. And despite the tariffs on Mexico and Canada, the folks here at markets like this don't expect produce to rise much more than a couple of percent.
If all this goes south, there's a really good chance all of this could blow up right in Trump's face.
Can't wait to see the look on the bastard's face.